Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Sharielle if you're new, and if you're returning, thank you for coming back. Today is part 2 of the truth about dating an athlete or a rapper. So let's get into it after my intro. Just to give a disclaimer, the way I did in part 1, and if you didn't watch part 1, check that out. My disclaimer is I'm not saying it's bad to date an athlete or a rapper, and I'm not going to say this applies to all of them. I'm just giving the perspective of all the things that can come with it, because oftentimes the glitz and the glam look amazing, the vacations, the bags, and all this stuff, but there's a lot of things that come with it that may not be what you truly want. So now it's for the 5th point when it comes to the truth about dating athletes and rappers, and that point is social media and groupies. This is something that has always been a thing. There's always been groupies way before social media. I'm sure there are groupies back in the day with like Alexander the Great and all the other people, but it's at another level now because social media has made it even easier for groupies to get to the athlete or the rapper. And if you're a woman dating them, that, I'm not saying it puts you on edge, but it just can make you feel uneasy because you may trust your man, but it makes it a little harder to trust them when so many women are throwing themselves at them physically in the real world and digitally online. I don't care how secure you are, because that's the thing about it. Some of these groupies are drop dead gorgeous. They have amazing bodies. For a living, they work out and maintain themselves because they're trying to snatch a baller and secure the bag. So this is their number one mission, and they'll do whatever it takes. A lot of them do look, bougie and put together, even though behind closed doors they'll do whatever. And as a woman, no matter what, we compare ourselves. So if these gorgeous women or thirsty women are coming after your man all the time, every day, and you know that, whether he tells you or not, that can cause you to be anxious. That can cause you to be insecure. I've seen it to where certain wives or girlfriends start touching their face out of nowhere or trying to get a BBL when they never needed it, and he was with you before you got procedures done. So why would you get procedures done now? But you end up being under pressure to look amazing all the time because you end up almost competing for your own man when you let the groupies and social media get to you. So that can just be a prison in itself. Am I good enough for him? Do I look good enough? Do I do enough? Should I be a boss woman or should I be a housewife? Should I do this or that? Because these groupies can have you, questioning yourself and your own worth. And that's something that your man hasn't even said to you or said was a problem. But because of social media, you'll literally look through their comments and see the thirst train. It's everywhere. And that can really affect your mental health. And another thing with social media, just in the case of the athlete and the rapper, is social media has a lot of trolls and a lot of people that are miserable and talk junk. And that can affect your athlete or the rapper. And they may not express that to you, but sometimes they do read the comments and they do see the tweets. And it can affect them, good or bad. So if that's affecting their mental health, it's going to affect you if you're dating them. And the 6th point is so big to me because a lot of people have this messed up and they don't know what really goes on. But my 6th point when it comes to the truth about dating an athlete or a rapper is finances. Everybody thinks because somebody has a stack of cash or they have a Rolls Royce or they have jewelry that they have money, and that is the biggest lie. Just to get into it, especially for rappers, a lot of rappers are not rich and they're in debt. And I say this because the record company usually has them in a terrible deal where they gave that rapper an advance where they bought that car, they bought that house, they got that jewelry. But when it comes to it in advance, they have to pay it back. And because of streaming, they're not making money off their own music, and half the time they don't even own their own masters. So they're not making jack diddly squat on music most of the time, and they need to make money through shows. So if the rapper is not popping or he's not selling out from tour dates, he's not making that much money. And oftentimes people see the money coming in, but I don't even know where they get it from. But certain rappers are even in the streets. Certain rappers scam, and certain rappers sell things. But yes, there's rappers that are still doing what, regular people do to make money because they're not making money from their music, but they'll never say that in public because it affects their image and how people look at them. So a lot of these women, you're looking up to these women that may have children by rappers. They may not even be getting a lot from child support or getting child support at all. Especially, it depends what state you live in, you know what I mean? If it's LA, it's different, but if it's Georgia, they may not be getting a lot of money. So if you're looking to secure the bag, there might be nothing in it, because sometimes it's just a facade and it's a lifestyle that they're not really living. They don't have real wealth. And of course, there's some rappers who made good decisions, like a Cameron. If you don't know who that is, he's a New York rapper who is an entrepreneur, and instead of being dumb and spending all his rap money when he was popping with Dipset, he invested in McDonald's and car washes. There's also Chameleonaire. He invested in tech, and he's doing very well. And there's another rapper, T Grizzly, who found another way to make money by streaming video games on Twitch. And he said, I think he was making like 6 figures a month through doing that. But you know what I mean? Not all rappers find another way to make money or are smart with their money. Some of them just are financially illiterate. A lot of them are getting finessed by different people. Some of them do want to make investments, but they're investing their money into things that aren't going to make them money. So yeah, when you're dating a rapper, most of the time it's smoke and mirrors, or the money is up and down too, because a lot of the times if they're popping, the money's up, but if they're not popping like that and they didn't make investments, the money's down. So the next thing with finances applies to both rappers and athletes. They have a lot of expenses. Like, they can make a lot of money, they can make millions, but they have to pay for a lot of things as well. Taxes alone, then they have to pay their agent, they have to pay your manager, your attorney. Most rappers and athletes have attorneys to pay, and whatever other expenses they have. So you can't think about just the money that's coming in. They owe the government a lot of money as well. They get a big chunk. They also have to pay, if they're on the road, obviously they live that type of lifestyle. They have to pay possibly a nanny. Housekeeping costs money. If they have a financial advisor, that costs money. A lot of things cost money for them. So we can't think their life is perfect or they're making so much money. Yeah, you make a lot of money and then you have a lot of stuff to pay for. And that's why they say more money, more problems. And I touched upon this a little bit with pressures, like athletes pay a lot of money to support their family and friends because they're usually the only successful person in their hometown or in their family. A lot of athletes do go broke because of their lifestyle, so they're making a certain income while they're in the league, but then that $1 million contract is not coming again in the next 5 years when they retire. So they're living at a $100 million level when they're in the league, and then they retire and they're still living at that level. So the expenses are of a 100 millionaire, but they may be making now 5 million a year. So that's how you can end up broke, end up in debt. Some rappers and athletes are in debt, and they don't talk about that either. And it's just very scary. Like, the percentage is very high for the amount of athletes that go broke once they're no longer in the NFL or in the NBA. So if they're not financially literate or smart with their money, the finances are gone. My 7th point that many people don't take into account because they see the glamorous part of it when it comes to the truth about dating an athlete or a rapper is that they're nomadic. Their lifestyle requires them to be on the road all the time, especially if they're in season, if they're an athlete, or if they're on tour or doing a movie or whatever. This means you're often alone, whether you live by yourself or you live with them. You're going to be alone a lot of the time, most of the day, a lot of the day. They can be busy, especially if it's in season or they're training really hard. and they're just not going to have as much time for you as somebody that has a set schedule that may work a 9 to 5. So people see the money and the status, but they don't see the loneliness that a lot of women go through when they date certain people of status. And also, when you have a family with them, you're the one that has to make all the decisions when they're on the road. Like, say your man gets traded to another team, that's an entirely new city that you have to move to. So you're the one that has to handle the movers, handle what house to buy. Should we get a condo? Should we get, a high-rise apartment? If you have children, where are they going to go to school? You have to research the different private schools or magnet schools or charter schools. You have to do this all on your own because he's too busy. He's focused on his career. So him being all over the place, you're the only stability. You're the one that's not nomadic, so you have to take care of all the responsibilities by yourself. So sometimes you will feel, if you have a family with them, like a single parent, even though you are definitely with them and they love you, but they're all over the country, so they can't help you with certain things at certain times. And the only way to have this not happen is hopping on a plane and going to wherever they are or traveling with them. And I feel like you shouldn't do that because you should have your own life and own things going on, not, chasing somebody around because you need to do stuff too. So either way, you're either going to be lonely or you're going to be flying from city to city everywhere they are, or traveling with them everywhere they are, which means you really have no life. Your whole life is centered around them. And my 8th and final point when it comes to the truth about dating athletes and rappers is a sensitive topic. So if this is a trigger warning, if you've ever been through the A word that rhymes with obtuse, that is the last point. The 8th point is the A word. So this is a danger that can come with a man that has power and money and status, because if he does not have good character, if he is not a man of faith, he can easily fall into this category because he has no moral stance. So when you are living with a man of this type of stature, you half the time don't live, in your hometown. You move to where he is. So now he's really your biggest support system, whether he supports you or not. And for somebody that could be a narcissist or somebody who's not a good person, they like when you're isolated because now you have to listen to them, do as they say, and you're just living in a prison, honestly. They can do things to charm you and tell you, oh, don't worry about working, I got you, and now they're paying all the bills. You're 100% financially dependent on them, but then they flip the script because now they feel like, well, I pay for everything, so I can cheat on you. If I do have a baby on you, it doesn't matter. I can curse you out, I can do this and that because I pay for everything. And I'm talking about a man without morals, like I said before. This is not all athletes and rappers. I'm just saying the ones that do not have faith and do not have standards, they're not a good person, they will do this to you. A lot of them can do this to you. And I've seen it to where, unfortunately, women have been hurt by the person they're with. Some women were pregnant when they were hurt. Some women were isolated in a hotel room when they were hurt. And I'm not going to put up the articles, but you guys can look this stuff up. And sometimes with football, they have the head trauma. So it may not always be them, but getting knocked in the head is not always a good thing. So if this man has anger problems, he's getting knocked in the head, and then has no emotional intelligence, you're his target now when you guys are alone at home. Like I touched on with the emotional intelligence, and another point, which was in part 1, they can be emotionally the A word sometimes because they're never going to fulfill that need you have for them to be vulnerable with you, to be sympathetic, to think of you first. And if they just don't care, that'll never be met for you. So that's always going to be a torturous thing. And it can just become a very toxic environment when you're dating somebody like this. And I'm talking about an athlete and a rapper with no character once again. When you date them and they're not going to change, They want things their way. They're holding you hostage. If you leave, now you have to get a regular job. If you leave, you're gonna have to go back to dudes that don't make a lot of money like me. This is mental A word, and they might talk down to you and say, you can't do better than me. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do if you leave me? You know what I mean? People don't think about that part. So make sure you know the character of somebody before you end up truly being deeply invested with them. I don't care how much money they make. That doesn't mean the situation is going to be good or that you'll be cared for in every way that you deserve to be. So don't cut yourself short trying to get a man with the bag, because in the end you may be miserable. You could be married with children and be married to a superstar and still be miserable. So if you like my video, give me a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more from me, you can subscribe to my channel and share this with your friends. Thank you so much for watching. You are appreciated.